सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सत्प्रत्ययाः किन्नु विहाय सन्तं हृद्येष चिन्तारहितो हृदाख्यः कथं स्मरामस्तममेयमेकं तस्य स्मृतिस्तत्र दृढैव निष्ठा। The first verse is in the form of a Mangalacharanam, a prayer. The first two verses are prayers. Why do we need to pray? Well, we need to pray because otherwise there is, we don't want problems in the completion of the work. When somebody writes something, you want the work first of all to finish properly, and then you want the work to be nicely read. And if it is Vedanta, it's not a story book, so you want also the work to be nicely understood, assimilated, and hope against hope, further taught, right? That is what one wants. And so the prayer is for this kind of a siddhi, this success, and also for the removal of various obstacles that are in there. There are two kinds of prayers. The first one is an overt prayer, which is right here, an overt prayer. Sometimes there are covert prayers, and we have seen examples of covert prayers where we have seen it in Panini. The first sutra of Panini is Vriddhiradait, and it starts with the word Vriddhi. Vriddhi means increase. But here, in the context of the sutra, in the Paninian sutra, Vriddhi means it's a technical term. It's a technical term that indicates a next level of strengthening of the vowels. So it has nothing to do with increase. But he uses it as a double-decker to connote increase. May this book increase in its outreach. May this increase the desire for the people to learn grammar. May this increase the fame. May it become famous. This is how it is. And obviously the covert prayer worked because of all the systems of grammar. That was the only one to survive. So very, very effective prayer. And then we have another example of a covert prayer where we have seen this not too long ago. Can anybody tell where? A covert prayer example?
Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, first.
Bhagavad Gita, the opening. Dhritarashtra uvacha. Dhritarashtra, the blind king, said. But actually, it's a covert prayer because it is talking about the Lord, Dhritam Rashtram Yena, by whom the whole universe is upheld. That is, an example, another wonderful example of a covert prayer. Overt prayer, we see it in the Mangalacharana of various kinds before the text starts. Now, in the overt prayer also, there are many different varieties of overt prayer, and one of them is like a Ashirvachana, like a blessing, asking for blessing, or let this be let this be a source of blessing for others. So it is like like some kind of a blessing. And so that is one example of in the overt prayer we have 3 different varieties. So that is one example. And then we the invocatory shloka to what is that one? Advaita Makaranda comes to mind. Kataksha Kirana Chanta Naman Mohabdhaye Namaha Amritananda Krishnaya Jagan Mangalamurtaye. Beautiful prayer. So the one, it's a prayer to Lord Krishna, perhaps his own guru also, who was named Krishnananda, we don't know. Lakshmidhara Kavi, the author, praying here in the invocatory verse of the Advaita Makaranda, that the one whose sidelong glance, yesterday we were talking about Kataksha, so whose Kataksha, whose sidelong glance, a tiny little peep from whose eye is enough to dry up the warm, loving glance, the gaze of Bhagavan, which Bhagavan is enough to dry up the ocean of samsara. So it is a prayer with an intention called Ashirvachana. That is one form of prayer. Then another form of prayer is like a traditional prayer where the author invokes God in any particular form, Guru, etc. Like for example, we find in certain in the beginning of certain Prakarana Granthas, Shri Harim Paramanandam Upadeshtaram Ishwaram Vyapakam Sarvalokanam Karanantam Namamyaham. So here it's an invocation to Shri Hari, who is in the form of Paramananda, and who is all pervasive in all the worlds, and who is the cause of the universe. Like that, there is an invocation. Then the third type of prayer is called Vastu Nirupanam. Vastu Nirupanam means that the prayer is used in fact to give the vision of Vedanta, to share the vision of Vedanta in the prayer itself. Obviously it is a very difficult thing to do, it's not easy, because you can't just make it some kind of a contrived thing. And so what are some examples? We have seen this in the invocatory mantras of the Taittiriya Upanishad composed by Adi Shankara. The first one, Yasmat Jatan Jagat Sarvam Yasminneva Praliyate Yenedam Dharyate Sarvam Tasmai Jnanatmane Namaha. Very nice. Yasmat Jatam Jagat Sarvam, from whom this entire universe has sprung, from which causeless cause this entire universe has sprung, and by which everything is sustained, and unto which everything resolves. Tasmai, unto that, and and you're waiting for some avatara of Bhagavan here, maybe it's Vishnu, maybe something Shiva or something, and then he surprises us, Tasmai Jnanatmane Namaha. And therefore salutations unto this Atma, which is in the form of all knowledge, which invested with a Shakti gives this has Ishvaratvam. And so in this kind of a prayer, both the Swarupa Lakshana of Brahman as Sat Chit Ananda. Swarupa Lakshana means that which is intrinsic to something, that which is its own nature, unchangeable nature of something is called Swarupa. And so Swarupa Lakshana means the indicatory words used to understand Brahman here. This is Swarupa Lakshana. So the Swarupa Lakshana of Brahman, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, or Sat, Chit, Ananda. What is this Sat, Chit, Ananda? Sat, that which exists, and Chit, and the nature of that existence is sentient, not insentient. And Ananda, it is forever. It is forever existent, it is forever sentient, it is forever unchangeable. And it is uncreated. This is what it is. This is the truth of the I, and that is the nature of the self. And so this is Swarupa Lakshana. Tatastha Lakshana is another way to recognize Brahman, and that means that those indicatory words which have some kind of a temporary, what is that called? Temporary relevance. Like Yasmat Jatam Jagat Sarvam, from which the whole universe has emerged. Yasminneva Praliyate, unto which the entire universe goes, resolves, becomes invisible. And then finally what? Goes into a state of demanifestation. Then Yasmin Dharyate Sarvam, so by which everything is upheld, sustained. Tasmai, unto that Jnanatmane Namaha. So Tasmai Jnanatmane Namaha, this is Swarupa Lakshana, and the first three, by which something is sustained, by which something has come up, and then unto which everything resolves. This is what is called Tatastha Lakshana. The definition of Brahman with regard to the Jagat. What do you mean by with regard to the Jagat? With reference to the Jagat. Because the Jagat comes and goes. So when there is no Jagat, does that mean there is no Brahman? No. Then we have Swarupa Lakshana. But then when we are dealing with the manifest universe, then we have one more Lakshana. It's not that Swarupa Lakshana goes away. Swarupa Lakshana is there, and in addition to understand this better and to assimilate this better, we have one more definition, some more indicators, which is in the form of what is called Tatastha Lakshana. A temporary, what should we say? An incidental definition. Tatastha Lakshana, incidental definition. Swarupa Lakshana, intrinsic definition. Just like pot and clay. From the standpoint of the clay, pot is not intrinsic to the clay. Pot comes, pot goes. Pot is not, the clay, it makes no difference to the clay. But if you look at the world from the standpoint of the pot, clay is intrinsic to the pot. That is exactly how it is. So Brahman doesn't have anything to do with the Jagat. If the Jagat goes away, Brahman doesn't go into depression and sit and cry. There is no reason for that. And so therefore, Jagat comes, Jagat goes, Brahman is the same. And that is why we say the Brahman has an incident, the Jagat is incidental to Brahman. And so this is what is called Vastu Nirupana Mangalacharanam. So the Mangalacharana, so the invocatory verse in the form of a prayer, which also unfolds the Vastu. Here the first verse of the, what is the text we are studying? Saddarshanam, is in the form of in the form of the third example. This is the Vastu Nirupanam. And why then? If it should just be a Vastu Nirupanam, it should just unfold the Vastu. Why call it a prayer? Why are we calling it a prayer? We are calling it a prayer because it is dripping with Mangalam. Mangalam means auspiciousness. How is it dripping with Mangalam? Look at the first word of the prayer, Sat. Amazing. It recalls, like I said yesterday, that same line from the Chandogya Upanishad, Sadeva Somya, because see, first we have the Akhyayika, stubborn Shvetaketu, and the father, frustrated Uddalaka, and then finally they get to the place of the teaching being delivered. And when the teaching is delivered, the first line is Sadeva Somya Idam Agre Asit. And here also Sat is the first word. Why is Sat auspicious? Sat is auspicious because it is the key to immortality. It is a key to learn about one's own immortality. If the word Sat is understood, then immortality is understood. Then why are you making a big deal of this immortality? Because this is what everybody wants. Nobody wants to be a mere mortal. In fact, the word mortal sends everybody packing with fear because it's scary. Oh my God, how am I going to die? When am I going to die? What's going to happen? This is very, very fearful. So therefore, and Lord Yama is not very popular, like a parking meter person. And when the same thing, somebody who writes the ticket and puts it on the car, just like that. And so Lord Yama also writes your number, and then your number is up. So this is in contrast to the mail delivery person. Mail delivery person, everybody anticipates with happiness, but whether it is Lord Yama or somebody who finds you the car for being parked in a wrong place, they are not very, very popular. And so therefore the word Sat means immortality. Although in vernacular languages, when they say, Sat Poyachu means it's dead, but that means it went to Sat. It is not anything else. So Sat doesn't mean dead. Sat means it is forever, unchanging. What can be more auspicious than that? Nothing can be more auspicious than that. That's why I said it is dripping with auspiciousness. So it's a prayer. It's a universal prayer. May I abide and understand this Sat. May I understand this Sat as myself, and may I abide in it. And since it is coming from a teacher and a saint of Ramana Maharshi's caliber, then that means that it has an intentionality. Even though it comes strictly under the Vastu Nirupana type of Mangalacharanam, it also has it is also an Ashirvada, it is also some kind of a blessing. May this Sat be assimilated. May this Sat be understood. May this Sat be lived in. And may this Sat become familiar to ourselves. And may the body-mind identification, the stubborn identification with the body, and the even more stubborn identification with the mind, may that go. And may it be replaced by Sat. So that's why the first word itself is a prayer. And then Sat Pratyayaha. Pratyayaha means cognition. How is Sat cognized? Sat is always cognized as an adjective in our minds. And Sat is cognized as an adjective. It is adjectival to flower. Flower exists, even though technically it's a verb here. But still, the concept of Sat in our mind is that this existence is applied to the flower. The existence is qualifying the flower. Now it is qualifying this, qualifying that. This is how we understand. But really, it's not an adjective. It's not even a verb. It is a noun. It has the force of a noun. And then, what is flower? So, flower and exist are both nouns? No, they cannot be both nouns, because one is dependent upon the other. So, when I say flower and existence together in the same breath, they are not synonymous. Just like when I say pot and clay in the same breath, can they be synonymous? Are pot and clay synonyms? No. Pot and clay are not synonyms at all. And so pot, but when I say pot, you have a image in your mind which is very different than what is evoked in your mind when I say clay. Pot and clay are not synonyms, they refer to different substantives. Similarly, flower and existence are not synonyms at all. Then what is this? What is existence? Existence, is that because of which flower is. Flower is dependent upon Sat, not the other way around. Sat is not dependent upon the flower. Sat is Sat, flower is Sat. All that there is Sat. Flower is Sat, but Sat is not flower. And if there is any trouble understanding this, go back to the pot and clay example, shall we? Pot, clay, the whole pot is nothing but clay. However, clay is not just a pot. Clay can be in the form of a figurine, clay can be in the form of another pot, still one more pot, lid, and so many things. Jar, jug, vessel, so many things. And so therefore, this is something to be understood, that Sat, there is a fundamental difference between Sat and all the things it supposedly qualifies. We shouldn't use the word qualifies at all, even with apostrophe. We should say, what should we say? Sat and everything that it blesses with its existence. Flower exists because Sat, flower is because Sat is. In fact, the word is Sat. Flower is, when you say, there are two components. One is the Nama Rupa called flower. Whatever that constitutes, all the components of the flower, the petals, the stamen, the stem, the leaf, everything. That is called flower. And then the pollen, everything. And then that which blesses the flower to be what it is called Sat. If Sat were to withdraw from the flower, then the flower no longer is. So flower is no longer Sat. The Nama Rupa called the flower leaves, and leaving Sat, free to take on a different form. What form will it take? Withered flower is. Withered flower, drooping flower is. And then the petals fall down. Then what has, so the flower again has departed. The Nama Rupa is leaving. When you say Nama Rupa is leaving, meaning it leaves the Sat, free to go to another form. Scattered flower is. Drooping flower is. Withered flower is. And even if you want to say dead flower, you're still saying is. Dead flower is. Very interesting. So the Namarupa does not change. The Namarupa keeps changing. The Sat is always the same, unchanging Sat. That is why it is Mangalam, because that is what one yearns for. And that's why it's a prarthana. Because one yearns for that, one wants that Sat. And you can't want the Sat as an object, because then again it will be finite, like the flower, it will wither in one's hands. So therefore what? So the Nama Rupa is not something that I want. What I want is to be forever. And that forever is nothing but Sat alone. Sat alone is, and that Sat is myself. And so, Sat Pratyayaha here is a very clever compound here, for reasons we'll see very quickly. So, Pratiti, Pratyaya, Pratiti, both of them mean cognition. It means cognition. So, the cognition of Sat, so the various cognitions of Sat means what? Where is the cognition happening? First of all, what is being cognized? Nama Rupa are being cognized. And where is the cognition happening? Right here in the head. So the Sat is shining where? And that place, the place where the Sat shines is Chit. So Sat and Chit means consciousness. I am aware of myself, self-evident I. So the pratyayas, the pratitis, the cognition of pot, hat, cat, mat, rat, bat, keep on falling in the mind. And in that experience of thinking of various objects, which are sat pratyayaha, which are existent objects, which are objects of sat cognition. There is in fact two kinds of cognitions simultaneously happening. There is in fact a dual cognition that is happening at all times. And what are the two cognitions? One is the cognition of myself as self-existent, the I cognition we can say, or the Sat cognition. And the other one the other cognition is the object of this Sat. So one cognition is consciousness, the other one is objects of consciousness. This dual thing is happening all the time, in all states except in sleep. In dream also you have dual cognition. In the waking state, of course, there is dual cognition. There are two things, riding one on top of the other. Sat pratiti, the cognition of Sat, is dependent upon the I cognition. And the I cognition is independent of anything else. It is self-reliant, self-luminous, self-evident, the self-evident I. And this is what it is. So the two cognitions are there. The I cognition is very modest, shy. It doesn't advertise itself. It is there in the background, like a tanpura in a vocal concert. In a vocal concert, the musician takes the what is that called, the spotlight, and then there are certain accompanists, and then in the middle of a Carnatic music concert, then everybody is given a turn. The percussionists are given a turn to show off their skills, and they just do all kinds of fantastic handwork, nice handiwork. And then the violinist is also given a chance to show off what all they can do without the frets. Violin is not easy, because you can have apaswara very quickly. Apaswara means wrong swara can come. So the violinist is also given a chance to show off. And then sometimes the vocal musician may bring the next generation, niece, nephew, daughter, son, somebody, and they are also given a chance to say something, to sing a few lines, and some scales go up and down and show off how nicely they are learning. The only person that doesn't get a chance is the person with the tanpura. But without the tanpura, there is no concert, because the main scales of the raga are tuned into this. Because of the constancy of the tanpura, the vocalists can go to great heights. They can even, if they are very skilled musicians, they can even go visit a neighboring raga, one of the notes of a neighboring raga they can visit and quickly come back, leaving everybody, just ecstatic. The whole audience goes wild, and they say wah wah and clap, and then they just completely. I mean, Indian music concerts are not like Western music concerts. There are no rules that you have to sit like this all the time and until the end. No, we don't have that. We burst into, we show our emotions and our appreciation right in the middle of it. But then the tanpura never gets a turn, poor thing. It is the most taken for granted. And then when everybody comes and takes a bow at the end, by the way, this is the vocalists. granddaughter on the Tanpura. And she will just come and do namaste, but that will be like almost an afterthought. Because what kind of a skill is needed to just go ding, 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 nothing much, that's what it is thought. But really, without that Tanpura keeps everything, keeps everything afloat. That is what is this Sat. That is what this Sat is. That is what this I cognition is. Because the I cognition is there, and it is constant, and it is self-reliant, and it is not really looking for any other source. It is a causeless, self-luminous, self-evident consciousness. Because I can rely on its presence all the time, then I can go to great heights in my imagination. Like sitting here, I can go to Africa. Sitting here, I can go somewhere else. I don't even have to catch a plane. I don't have to go, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to spend any money. I can just go here, there, everywhere. Why? Because that I, in the awareness of this I in the form of this Sat is always constant. So that is what is there. And upon this I cognition ride all other cognition. All other cognitions ride on this self-evident I. And that self-evident I thinks of pot appears, and thinks of something else, something appears, thinks of cat appears, thinks of rat appears. Oh no, now there are two enemies in the room. The rat, the cat chases the rat. And like this you can keep on, building up stories after stories. All because of that silent, unappreciated, ever taken for granted I cognition. So where is this Sat in the form of I cognition? What is this? So that is here in the first line, Sat Pratyayaha, objects of this Sat, objects of this cognition. And then Santam, this sun, is that I cognition. So if that I cognition is not there, then no object will shine. No object will shine. No object will become evident to me if I am myself not there. How do you know? Because in sleep, supposing somebody was shown 3 items and then upon waking asked to identify, okay, what did I show you first? They don't know. Sometimes people sleep with their eyes open, but they still don't know. You can show them some object, they don't know. So this is what it is. So when the I cognition withdraws here, it doesn't completely go away, because it is alupta drik, it is never invisible. But the mind withdraws into a causal state and does not broadcast the I cognition. And in that state what happens is that this dual pratiti doesn't take place. This dual cognition experience is not there in sleep, which is why the sleep state becomes a very important way of doing this, of showing, of some kind of a entry point to getting people familiar with the truth of the I. Then if this Sat is there, and where does it exist? The location, please, because nowadays this is how people talk. Please come to my house. Location, send me your location. Something you do on the phone, I suppose. I never fully understood it, but I understand the concept of it. Send the location. And and then you've never even met the person. In India it is like that. Anybody. You order something, some food, and the pizza person wants to know, send me your location. I've never met you, why should I send my location? I've given the address, just come. No, send me your location. So here, so where is the GPS for Sat? Where is the Sat? There is this Sat. This Sat is called hridakhyah. Chintarahitah hridakhyah eshah. The word hridi will take it belongs to the third line, okay? So don't worry about the first word. Hridi, in the heart, don't worry about that. Seventh case, hridakhyah, that which is called the heart. Here we are not talking of the physical heart that is pumping blood and getting plaque in the veins and the arteries, okay? We are not talking of the physical heart. We are talking of the heart of the matter. That is why the word heart is used. It is used in a metaphorical, figurative sense. In a figurative sense it is used, and so therefore hridakhyah chintarahitah hridakhyah. This sat, the place, the resting place, or the place for this sat. Where is this sat located? This is a very silly question, because we know from other classes that sat is everywhere, and everything is sat. But still the penchant is to ask this question, if everything is located in sat, okay, but then where is sat located? It's like the question one child asked me once. Everybody meditates on Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva is always seen in meditation. Who is Lord Shiva meditating on? Huh? It's a very nice question. I liked it very much. Lord Shiva is meditating on his own glory, which is your own glory, I said. And the child had lost interest by that time, and she said, whatever, and she went and started to play. But this is what it is. So if everything is located in Sat, okay, I understand that, located within heavy quotes, okay, nothing is, otherwise we'll have two, Ashraya and Ashrita, and so we don't want that. So one is the locator and the other one is the located. So everything is as though located in Sat. Then where is Sat? Where is Sat located? Where is the location of Sat? Sat, can you please send me your location? And this is where people get stuck, because otherwise it becomes an abstract concept. And to ward this off, Ramana gives us the location for this Sat. And he says it is called the heart. Hridakhyah. What kind of a heart? A heart here means antahkarana, the inner instrument, which consists of mind, buddhi, ahankara and chittam. This is the antahkarana. Mind, a surface level of just, what is that called? A surface level, just some impressions. Should I do this? Should I do that? Etc. Sankalpa vikalpatmakam manaha. Sankalpa, I decide to do this. I think I will study Saddarshanam. And then next minute, no, if I don't study Saddarshanam, one more hour of sleep I can have, or I can do something else. This is called manaha. Then chittam, I want to study Saddarshanam, but I don't feel like it. Okay, so that is the feeling level, emotion, chittam. Then buddhi. What is the example of buddhi? I want to study Saddarshanam and I am going to make sure that I study this and complete this text. Nischayatmika buddhi. Then finally the ahankara. Who is the ahankara? I did it. I studied Saddarshanam. I can even quote from it. Okay, the one that feels very ecstatic. And all these four comprise what is called the antahkarana. And here it is called hrid. Hrid. Hrid means the heart of the matter. Hrid means heart. So here it is the heart of the matter. And what kind of an antahkarana will the Sat, is the Sat available in? Sat is available in all kinds of antahkarana, okay? Yeah. In a crying antahkarana, it's because of the presence of Sat that one is able to cry. It is because of Ananda, the presence of Satchidananda, one can cry. And then it is in an angry antahkarana, Sat is there, shining the light on the anger. in an antahkarana filled with fear, Sat is very much there, shining the light on the fear. And in a busy antahkarana, what to do today, what to do now, what to do now, what to do now, in a busy antahkarana, Sat is there, shining the light on all this busyness. It is there. But just like the tanpura, the tambura, in the music concert, it is more difficult to recognize because one mistakes the outpouring of the emotions. The objects of this Sat are easier to objectify, and that which is easily objectifiable is seen, is heard, is experienced, and then Sat is in the background, very much there. So it, like I said yesterday, Sat is not opposed to noise. Sat is not opposed to silence. In a noisy antahkarana, which is rattling around with all kinds of grudges, resentments, memories, pains, sorrows, and all kinds of things, still Sat is very much there. But it is not recognized. Why? It is not recognized because there is too much going on. It's too much going on. If you go to a museum, there is some wonderful piece, right? Some wonderful painting or a sculpture, let us say. So one wonderful sculpture is there. And what do? They have a table or a pedestal, and on top of the pedestal the sculpture is placed, and then there is a light shining on that sculpture, a spotlight, enough to make you appreciate it. And the pedestal will not take the shine of the sculpture away, because the pedestal will look very boring, monotonal, simple pedestal. If it's an ornate pedestal, then this will not be displayed on that. It will take away from that exhibition. Now imagine you take this beautiful sculpture and then you put it alongside so many other things, so many other garden sculptures, and then so many other, other equipments, so many things, water hose, watering can, so many things are there, a bag of fertilizer and everything. And what will happen to the sculpture? This beautiful sculpture will get lost. And that's exactly what happens to Sat, the I, which is there, which is recognized as aham, aham, aham. That aham, that I, cognition, by itself is lost in a noisy, troubled, ragadvesha filled, fearful, tearful ahankara. Therefore it says, chintarahitah hridakhyah. It is found in a heart, in an antahkarana, without a lot of stuff going on, without a lot of worries, without a lot of agenda, without a lot of things going on. In a tranquil ahankara, tamed by the practice of japa, meditation, tamed by the practice of service to others, and tamed by the practice of devotion, puja, japa, etc. Then in that tamed ahankara, where the noisy ones, the little inner children of fears, tears and clamoring beings, are with pacifiers in their mouths, fast asleep, there it is easier to recognize the Sat, the Sat here, free of name and form, free of objectification. It need not be objectified as we saw yesterday, because it is the truth of the I, it is self-evident. So the self-evident I is recognized as free of sorrow, free of pain, free of objects, free of dependencies, free of everything, in a heart that has where we have made the room for it. That is where it is located. That is where it is cognized. This is what is the first two lines. Say, see how deep it is. This is not like some, this is not just dabbling in Vedanta. This is not putting a toe into the water. It is dipping oneself completely. That's why it is a very much, immersing oneself in this text. And so, this is the first two lines show what is this Sat, and how this Sat is not separate from Sat Chit, and how this Sat Chit is I, because that is where it is understood and located, so to speak, located. That is where it is cognized, and it is cognized under all conditions. But it is easier to cognize when the heart, when the antahkarana is tranquil. Now, if this Sat, what kind of Sat? The Sat that is me, the Sat that cannot be objectified, were to be an object of prayer, because the first prayer is for Sat. How do I pray? Oh, nameless, formless one. How to pray like this? Oh Sat, who is sitting in the heart? It's impossible to pray. Aparam chet, dhyayet, param chet, jnayet. This is what Adi Shankara says. If we are talking of Aparam Brahma, this is in the Bhashya to Kathopanishad. So, if we are talking of Aparam Brahma, Sagunam Brahma, Brahman that is, so to speak, endowed with attributes of Ishwaratvam, etc., then you can say, oh Lord, in the form of Shiva, I adore you. And please, while I pray to you, make sure your arrows are not directed at me. The neighbor is much more adharmic. Go there and go. So many other karmas, people's karmas are there. Go take care of them. Don't come after me. You can pray like that. If you invoke goddess, you can pray to the goddess. Oh goddess, who is in the form of this manifest universe, whose Shakti to create and to take back and to sustain makes this universe shine so beautifully. You of unparalleled power, bless me with tranquility. You can pray like that. But what kind of a prayer is to Sat? Sat is you. And so what do you do? And that's why I suppose in the Hindu tradition alone, when you cannot perambulate a temple, you go around yourself. This is the reason you go around yourself. Because you are that Sat. And so that Sat is you. How are you going to look at it as an object? And this difficulty is pointed out in the next two lines. So first of all, where does the prayer take place? In the heart. Even though you're standing in front of a temple, the prayer always is a personal and a heartfelt affair. And this we see, that sometimes people do Padayatra. Padayatra means they go on foot to pilgrimages far, far away. To Badrinath, they will go on foot all the way from South India. From Tamil Nadu, they will go to Badrinath. And there, standing in front of the shrine, the people will close their eyes, even though they have taken months to walk. Why? Because the prayer is in the heart. Hridi. In the heart alone is the prayer. You go to see Goddess Meenakshi, all decked up, beautiful, wonderful Goddess Meenakshi you see, and then immediately you close your eyes. Because that darshan, that Saddarshanam here, very aptly titled, is always, so to speak, within. And so here, so it is supposed to be contemplated in the heart, but it is the heart, really, we talked about that. So there is a karta karma virodha, there is a subject-object contradiction. How am I going to pray to this Sat? That is exactly what he asks. He says, Katham smaramaha. How to pray to this Sat? How to remember this Sat? Because what is prayer other than a remembrance of God? This is prayer. Ishvara being remembered in some kind of a saguna form, like, okay, you can say, Murugan, you can say, you have a veil, you have a spear, you are sitting on a peacock, you are Shadanana, you have 6 faces. The 6 are for all this kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. The 6 difficult emotions, difficult to tame emotions. Pride, greed, all these things. And desire, anger, all these things. Avarice, all these things are there. Delusion. And so they make up the 6 faces. The one who has faced those things and conquered them. So Shanmukha, you can say, you can say, oh mind, bhaja Shanmukham, please, turn, remember Shanmukha, smara. And then in, Hindi bhajans also have some kind of a word, sumirana kije. Sumirana kije means remember. Remember Lord Rama. And then here if you're told remember Sat, what? It's not like an orange or a mango. Remember Sat, okay? How to remember Sat? It's not an object. That which you call Sat is not an object enclosed by a thought. But if I say, for example, if I say orange, a small orange has already appeared inside your thoughts. Orange has become the object of your thoughts. Now I'll call out a few more things. Table. You see a table? You can say smarami. Tabalam, smarami. You can say, I remember the table. I recall the table. And then chair. Of course you can recall the chair. It's an object that is enclosed by your thought. And then I say microphone. Object enclosed by your thought. Then I say, computer, object enclosed by the thought. Even if I say something abstract, sky, again an object enclosed by your thought. Or if I say some belief system, Dvaita, it's kind of a dualist belief system. If I ask you to think about that, you can still think about it because it's an object, slightly abstract object, but still it can be objectified. It is an object enclosed by this thought. Then I say Sat. What? Because what is it that is enclosing? We forget this. What is it that is as though enclosing something as an object of thought? It is that Sat. So if you ask Sat to enclose itself in a thought, it cannot. Because that Sat is you, and you are never an object, you are always the subject. So he laments in the 3rd line, Katham smaramaha, how on earth can we remember? That's why, in many theologies, people keep saying, think of God. Okay? First thought, God. Second thought, God. Then suddenly I saw one street dog. And then what? God became dog. And then I feel guilty. Now again I have to think of God. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Dog is also God. That is the whole idea. Street is also God. You are also God. Everything is God. That is what, and you cannot think of God as an object. That's why Adi Shankara says, if we are talking of Sagunam Brahma, then Dhyayet. Dhyayet. Dhyayet means it is an object. May one meditate upon. May one pray to. Param Chet. If we are talking of Param Brahma, Brahman without attributes. If we are talking of Swarupa Lakshana, not Tatastha Lakshana. Tatastha Lakshana means an incidental definition where Brahman has the attributes of being the creator, sustainer, resolver, and all power, all knowledge, all these things. So, devoid of those attributes, that Brahman is you. Satchidananda, that is in the form of this, the I that never shuts up, and the I that is, poor thing, always taken for granted. And that I is, is sensed And it is not an object of thought because it doesn't need a means of knowledge to reveal itself or to be revealed by a means of knowledge. It is not necessary. That I is already self-revealing. And how are you going to pray to this I? You cannot. Katham smaramaha. Tam means that sat. How to remember? How can it be an object of my memory, my prayer? Why? Ameyam. Ameyam means that which cannot be objectified. You cannot take a measuring tape to Sat and say how how to do this. Ameya, that which cannot be measured, that which cannot be thought of as an object, that which is not objectifiable. And how many Sats are there? Ekameva dvitiyam, ekam. So that one Sat, which is the truth of this whole universe, which is the truth of this I, how can I make it into an object of thought, even to pray to it? Not possible. Oh, okay, we won't pray, it's all right. No. Go to the fourth line. Tasya smritihi tatra dridha eva nishtha tasya smritihi. So, what you call remembrance of Sat, thinking of Sat, praying to Sat, objectifying to Sat is not possible. What is possible is to abide as Sat. That's what I said. Saddarshanam is Sadbhavanam is Sannishtha. Nishtha means Nitaram Sthitihi. And you see how clever this verse is. He is so clever. He says, okay, we should do a Mangalacharanam. We should, in following all the rules, he is breaking all the rules. Very nice. He is questioning the very rules. So we should do a prayer to Sat. Okay, where to look, which direction to face, and how to pray, what to pray to. How to pray to that which is immeasurable, which is not objectifiable at all, which is not an object of my consciousness, which is that consciousness to which everything, all the objects become evident. How to pray to that? Well, the best form of prayer is to abide in that. What do you mean abide in that? Lose the Dehatma Buddhi. Dehatma Buddhi means the orientation, I am as good as the body, I am as good as the mind. So that is replaced by I am nothing but Sat. I am nothing but Sat. All I am is Sat. Sat here, Sat there, Sat everywhere. That is all I am. This is the understanding. Losing the penchant of clinging to the finite is Saddarshanam, Sadbhavanam, Sannishtha. That is what it is. It is not to be thought of as an object, and you don't make a mala for it and try to put it on the neck of Sat. Why? Simply because it doesn't have a neck. Okay? Yeah. And then you don't try to, do arati to Sat because it doesn't have a form. And so therefore, what is it here? The best way to adore Sat is to understand that you are non-separate from Sat. All that is there is Sat. I am that Sat. When you do this, then there is a very, very beautiful prayer. What kind of a prayer? It's like a what is it called? Ahangraha Upasana. Ahamgraha Upasana, where the I is, it's a form of Upasana, where the Sat is, very much highlighted and it is included as I. And so it is a contemplation, and this contemplation alone, this form of contemplation Everything is given here. What is needed for this contemplation? A tranquil heart, where what do you mean by a tranquil heart? Where the raga and dvesha have been tranquilized, at least for the time being, and where they don't bother you. This is what is needed. And what a wonderful Mangalacharanam. See how wonderful it is. And very inimitable, fantastic. And it is in the form of a lot of questions, because it is not giving us, spoon feeding. It's not spoon feeding. It is trying to, the verses try to bring alive the, it's like a brain massage. It's trying to bring alive the brain's buddhi cells, so that one can think for oneself. One can actually do sadvichara, an inquiry into oneself. More we'll see tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamini Ji.